Hi there. I'm coming to you from my living room. I've had a little bit of a sore throat coming off and on this week, so we decided to just do it this way. So I am sharing with you a story about a time in my life where I had a faith crisis. Some of you will have heard some of the story before. It has to do with my brother, who is a special needs fellow. He's in his 50s, lives in BC with my parents, or did for many years. And the crisis started around 2012 for him. He started going into crisis. He started having psychotic experiences, increasing agitation, irritation, self-harm, other harm, and it started very slowly, and it increased incrementally. And for a while, he was with my parents, but because of the behaviors, they couldn't manage him. And 911 started to be called, and that started to be a regular occurrence. As the psychiatrists tried to treat him with medications, things just seemed to spiral out of control more and more. And and he started to have episodes where he was actually having to be restrained in psych wards. And this is where things got really challenging for myself and for my family. How to handle this? We tried everything we could think of in our realm, prayers and everything we could think of to help him. We went along with the doctor's decisions, even though we struggled with them, until it just seemed like everything they did was simply not working. And then we started to challenge them and say, can't we try getting him off these drugs and see if he improves? And there was just no room for that. The only way psychiatrists take you down off of drugs is if you stabilize first, and so they would not consider removing any drugs from him until he became stable. So this just became very, it grew and grew. He had a couple of episodes of pneumonia that were incurred under full-time care. He had a broken hip. He saw approximately 12 different psychiatrists, counting the rotation of the ones that were assigned to him by the healthcare system, and also including the psychiatrists that were in the ER when he went in, and the psychiatrist that then rotated while he was in a psych ward. So whoever was on did what they thought was best. And so there was very little continuity, very little communication between them, and it was just a nightmare to watch. And what really got to me is he's basically, his disability gives him full physical mobility, but his mental and emotional age is that of a 4 to 6 year old. So you're dealing with someone who just, they can't reason for themselves very well. They can't speak for themselves very well. And we were trying to speak for him, and it was just going nowhere. Some of the worst times were when I went to support my parents during psychiatric appointments or other doctor's appointments. And this one time he was in full restraints, head, shoulders, arms, feet, and he was fighting them nonstop with maybe 35-40 seconds at a time where he was quiet, and the rest of the time he was straining against them and pushing against them and calling out, help me, help me, help me, over and over and over and over. And it was just so brutal to see. But the one day his staff that usually sit with him for a full day couldn't be there, and so I sat in for a 7-hour stint, and that just about did me in, watching him strain and fight and not be able to communicate anything other than help me. And anyway, so this is the situation. and my faith was like, we prayed in every way we could, and I just couldn't understand why. The injustice of it, the pain of it, the pain of watching my parents, the pain of watching him, my own pain because I couldn't do anything to help, and no resolution. And this went on for pretty much 5 years, and it just escalated and escalated. So it got to the point where I was feeling like I was tired of God. I didn't understand why he wasn't helping in ways that I thought were reasonable for him to help, and it was just too much. And I remember this one time I was having some quiet time and some devotional time, and I came across the story where Jesus had 120 disciples, and he started talking about how they were going to have to eat his flesh and drink his blood, that whole communion thing, and he scared off 120 people in one day, and all that was left was the 12. And he looked at them and he said, "Are you going to leave me too?" And Peter said, "To whom shall we go, Lord? You have the words of eternal life." And those words just, they hit me. Where am I going to go if I give up on God because he's not cooperating? Where am I going to go? Like, where else is there any hope beyond what we see here other than through him? And I mean, right now our world is in this crazy COVID crisis, and I'm sure some people are very afraid and feeling the same way because of that. But really, Jesus offers the only hope there is for an eternity that is worth what we go through here. And so that's the bottom line for me. I came down to that. Well, where am I going to go, and what else am I going to do? What other thing out there can offer me any kind of comfort or hope other than the faith that I have? So he sort of reined me back in with that word through that prayer time, and he encouraged me again toward trusting in him. And what I was really struck with, the fact that all the hope and the comfort for suffering that we experience comes from him, the one who has suffered for us. Psalm 34:18 says, "He is near to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." And I think there's many people who have been in that place of being brokenhearted and crushed in spirit. And what I discovered was that until I quit fighting the pain and fighting the injustice, I couldn't receive the comfort. So when I quit fighting the why is this happening? Why him? What has he done? Why? When I finally quit fighting the why, then Jesus could comfort me, and then his suffering, it becomes something that we participate in a way. We end up, the Bible in a number of places talks about participating in the suffering of Christ, and I felt like when I quit fighting the why and just accepted what was and trusted him with what was, I felt like the comfort I received was actually this intimacy with Christ himself in the partnership of his suffering. And it's still obscure to me. I'm still trying to really understand that, I guess, but it was a very mysterious sense of comfort and assurance, because nothing changed right away. And we really, I think we like to be comforted by a change, an improvement, by a change that brings an answer, and that's not what happened. And I think that a lot of times that isn't what happens. So that was something that I learned. Shortly after that, Chris did start to recover. He got to the place where they told us that he was not going to improve. He wasn't able to chew and swallow properly. They said it was because he had dementia. and we had to just accept it. And when he continued to struggle with eating and swallowing, we said, well, please just take him off the antipsychotics that are oral and leave him on the Ativan that was IV. And when they did, he had an incredible recovery within 48 hours. Not back to his normal self, but he was able to eat, he was able to get up and walk around, the pneumonia cleared up, and he just continued to improve until he was able to be released. So he is currently today living in a group home. He's still very high need, and actually in the last 3 weeks, I would say, he has started to escalate again with some behavior issues, and he is self-harming again. There's bruises on his body, and so this is distressing, but at the same time, we've been through it before, and we have to continue to trust that the Lord still knows what he's doing, and what he is teaching us in this is to trust him in a radical way. So I hope that this message is an encouragement to you, an encouragement to your faith, that there is something beautiful that can come from suffering and from walking in trust with our Lord. Thanks for listening.